555-0192. Please leave a message.
Rachel, it's Bailey. If you're there, pick up. Agent Burke.
Hello?
Look, I'm not jumping to conclusions, but is this a bad time?
Only if you got something against incline presses.
Sorry to ruin your Saturday morning, but I've been contacted by our people in Phoenix. Last night, the freak who's been riding the rails claimed his 8th victim. We've been requested to assist in the investigation. We'll meet at the plane in 30 minutes.
All right, I have to shower.
In 30 minutes.
Fine, then I'll sit next to you.
I want you to create a database through VCTF and NCIC. There've been a series of railway murders in Texas, New Mexico, and last night in Arizona. We'll need a complete history and victimology from each case, but you can do that on the plane.
Well, Bailey, I really think I can handle that from the shop.
You need to get out of the shop.
Well, we're doing a complete overhaul of the projection system this week. I think I really need to be there.
George, you're part of the team. I want you with us. I'll see you at the airport. Killer's MO seems consistent. Strangulation without ligature, although he struck at different hours of the day and night. There's an additional aspect of the signature, but we'll discuss that on the plane. I know you've got a lot on your plate, Gracie. So if you need help finding someone to stay with Jason, let me know. The first kill was in Amarillo back in December. Victims have been found in empty boxcars and within a couple of 100 yards of the tracks. There have been 5 male victims and 3 females, ranging in age from 62 to 80. 4 of the males were transients, hobos. The females were all housewives who lived within a mile or so of the tracks. We're in the air in 20 minutes.
You're not really gonna leave.
I have to, babe.
Can't they work one case without you?
What can I say? It's hell being indispensable. Oh, no. Oh.
Saturday morning, 7:15. You try getting a locksmith on the phone.
What'd he charge you?
$85, which as far as I'm concerned, is extortion.
Maybe so, but you'd have never gotten that headboard on the plane.
Cigarette burns on his face, so they'd be seen. Could be the killer's way of showing the world his power. I can be more definitive once I get him on a table, but it looks to me like his esophagus was collapsed. Speaks to the rage of the attack or the age of the killer. Hey, who's watching Jason? Morgan. He's in an apartment a few miles from the house. A woman answered, Gwen. Told me he was moving out because he needed to find himself. Gwen must be helping him look. Pockets are empty. But to torture him like this? For what? A couple of bucks, a bottle of booze?
He burned the faces of his male victims, but not the females.
So he's a ladies' man.
Agent Malone? I'm Sheriff Jerome Cunningham.
This is Agent John Grant. I assume you've already met Agents Burke and Alvarez.
Some folks call you Jerry? Sheriff Cunningham.
Can you attach a name to this body?
If I had, we would have transmitted it to you, but they tend not to use given names.
Could you transmit to us what they do use?
Handles, nicknames. Usually they describe some physical trait or habitual behavior.
What's his handle?
Oil Can Charlie.
What kind of trait does that describe?
I have no idea.
Do you have any background on him?
If I had, we would have transmitted it to you.
Are we having a problem, Sheriff?
Not at all. You ask a question, I answered it.
Feels like I haven't eaten in days. When can we get some good Chinese?
Mr. Chow's in Atlanta.
Funny names seem right to you.
I get warmer greetings from the IRS.
You guys know the myth about hobos, right? But a lot of them have big-time money socked away.
They ride boxcars instead of limos. It's a choice. You're saying cigarette burns were a way of forcing them to tell them where they stash their cash.
No, that's what you're saying. But look at the other victims. Elderly white people who you'd think would trust banks, but I don't know, maybe they keep their money in soup cans or under the mattress.
Hey, look at that. You saved me from a heart attack. Here. Oh, and here's 20 for your trouble.
No, thank you.
Well, go on and take it, boy. You earned it. Looked to me like you could use it. Are you deranged or what, boy?
Okay, I've checked Union Pacific, BNSF, and Conrail, and with respect to reported incidents of trespassing and vandalism, there were no unusual levels of activity and no repeat offenders during the last 3 months.
George, take a breath.
Of course, records are spotty because a lot of the freight companies can't afford to keep their own security records, so they've started using outside agencies, and information, naturally, is falling through the cracks. But I'm still looking.
If there's a pattern to these kills, I don't see it. Seems like he's just going wherever the next train takes him. No direction, no point.
You know, the lack of direction may be the point. And you feel liberated by the act of getting on a train, not knowing where it's going.
What does it tell you about his past life?
That it might have been constrained, either emotionally or physically. Boundaries of behavior or movement could have been imposed upon him. He could have been chained to a bed or locked in a closet. That could be the reason he feels the need to keep moving.
That, and the assumption he doesn't want to get caught. Get an idea on the victim in the boxcar?
Seems like every guy in the train yard knew Oil Can Charlie. I talked to Luther the Cat, Night Train Mac, Quick Drawer Shorty, and Ed. Problem is, none of them knew Oil Can by any other name. But they weren't surprised he got rolled.
He had money hidden somewhere.
According to these guys, he was the Rockefeller of the rails.
Well, thank you very much.
What don't you like?
I'm just not sure it's about money. I can't tell you why. I think he killed his victims because of what they meant to him, not because of what they had.
Man, this is all my resources. Well, take it. Just don't hurt me. Take it.
No, thank you.
When you ever short of resources, you come looking for me. And ask for a 2-time route. You hear?
Nothing new here. Manual strangulation. Same burns to the face. Looks like he ran out of face.
Ronald Taylor, 62. Reminds me of the previous male victims. We need to know if the killer went into the house.
He didn't.
Pretty definitive.
I know how to conduct an investigation.
I wasn't impugning your expertise.
The hell you weren't.
Sheriff, you do have a problem. And since I'm too busy to guess what it is, why don't you spill it?
These murders have been going on for a year. Over 3 states and 26 jurisdictions. But the VCTF takes over the investigation on my watch?
The governor contacted the Attorney General, requesting our assistance. The governor's office gave me your name. They didn't send me your picture.
How naive you think I am?
I haven't given it a minute's thought. I'll work this case with your cooperation or without it. But I expect to get it, because before anything else, you belong to the Brotherhood of Law Enforcement. How naive you think I am?
Did John say whether or not the victim was a smoker?
John hasn't had the chance. But that would be a no on the smoking. Hey, Bailey. Found these over by the shed.
Gray speckles.
This across the yard, up against the porch.
Why torture the victim to give up his stash, then do this?
Maybe the victim thought he was destitute, tried to pay him for his work.
The offer of money could have insulted him. That's what set him off.
That might have been the trigger. I mean, we're out in the sticks. If he wanted to rob him, he would have had all day.
Then the other victims were robbed out of necessity. Theft wasn't the attraction.
So what was? His victim's appearance, the need to help?
This is different. Skin tissue and blood underneath his nails.
Enough for a workup?
And some. The old guy put up a pretty good fight.
Last attack was 2 days ago. We're seeing an acceleration of incidents. The killing started in Amarillo, then El Paso, Las Cruces.
We're thinking they're not so random after all.
Or at least moving in a direction that makes sense to him. Someplace that has significance for him.
If he didn't torture his victims for their treasure, why the cigarette burns? A mirror of the abuse the killer suffered?
He could be moving toward or away from where the abuse happened. He killed him with his bare hands. I wouldn't rule out the need for him to see the life drain out of his victim's eyes.
We assume the burns were inflicted while the victims were still alive. But what if they were already dead?
Then the burns wouldn't be about torture, they'd be about markings.
Like a brand.
Sign of persecution, a scarlet letter.
You thinking the burns got some kind of literary significance? Some kind of statement?
His concerns are more immediate. Food, shelter. He's living hand to mouth.
What if the marks are symbolic? Of a birthmark that keeps him from having a normal life? It keeps him moving, always on the run.
Victims are from different social classes, both male and female, spread out over 1,000 miles. Their only commonality is race and age.
What if they're surrogates?
But he's killing both men and women.
What if they're surrogates for parents, couples, grandparents considering their age?
Who should have shown him love and understanding.
But didn't. These are traits usually associated with older caregivers. Maybe that's what's attracting him to his victims. Maybe his grandparents were behind the abuse.
So, we've got a white male, early 20s, a drifter or transient, who suffered a history of abuse from older caregivers.
If we're talking drifters, a lot of them have drug addictions, disease, hepatitis.
I'll have George check public health records.
Assuming he's had a checkup in the last 10 years. Your killer had no addictions, no diseases. By sheer luck is my guess. He was never inoculated. Not for chickenpox, diphtheria, typhoid, polio.
Well, that's abuse.
But the cigarette burns weren't. Based on the lack of lymph fluid, they were inflicted post-mortem. And here's something I bet you weren't expecting. I did a hemoglobin electrophoresis test, standard operating procedure. Your killer is African-American.
He's a carrier of sickle cell anemia. Only black people can be carriers.
When was the last serial case you worked where the suspect was black?
Let me think. Never.
If this was a race crime, then all our assumptions are wrong. Money, surrogates.
Not necessarily. What if the victims were surrogates for a foster family? People who adopted them.
Adopted, then abused them. Marking could be the equivalent of a burning cross.
Well, now you're trying to make it fit into the category of a traditional race crime.
Tell me why it doesn't.
Because there's an element of restraint here.
Restraint? Those killings were brutal.
They could have been a lot more brutal if he burned them when they were alive.
Why didn't he?
Because at one time they were kind to him.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe he remembers kindness and abuse, and he can't reconcile them.
I want to emphasize you're not under arrest. Simply want to ask you a few questions. We don't care about jumping rails, trespassing, or vagrancy. We got a far more serious situation on our hands, and it's vital that each of you cooperate and answer all... Sure! Hey!
Where is he?
Well, his legs are over there, and the rest of him's on his way to Tucson.
Now you got a problem.
There's a lot about my job I don't like. I don't like getting punched in the mouth by subordinates.
For which I was appropriately censured.
You should have been fired. I also don't like getting on a plane at 7 a.m. in Washington after the Attorney General just breakfasts on my ass. We're having our heads handed to us. Every paper and network in the country is saying the FBI is all about racial profiling.
That's a load of crap, and you know it.
Tell me those 12 suspects at the train yard were not rounded up because of their race.
I can't tell you that because they were. The hemoglobin test said conclusively that the killer is black. That's not racial profiling. That's science.
Was it science that made you chase him under the wheels of a train?
We chased him because he ran.
He ran because for 300 years, every time a black man saw two white police officers chasing him, it meant he was going to be beaten until he confessed to something.
He ran because he's a fugitive, Mr. Miller. Randall Parker, convicted of attempted murder in Florida, escaped from Rayford 2 weeks before the first railway killing was reported. He may very well have committed these murders.
You didn't know that at the time?
But I do know two things at this time. I know that he handled the situation precisely according to procedure. And I know that you're sitting in my chair.
Sorry. Randall Parker is not our killer. At least he didn't kill the wood chopper. His DNA does not match the sample we found under the old man's fingernails.
You got any good news?
I like to save it for last. The cigarette we found in Taylor's front yard was used to burn him, also post-mortem. I tested the saliva on the filter. Our killer's a secretor.
When I was a DA, we convicted a guy because he was a secretor. We found traces of blood in his saliva on an envelope that he licked 17 years ago.
They comprise 1% of the population, which can narrow a pool of suspects in a hurry.
Yeah, if you have a pool of suspects.
Rachel, it's me, George. Did I wake you?
It's 3:30 in the morning.
I'm sorry. You said you were a night owl.
A night owl, not a bat.
Oh, God. Okay, I am sorry. Okay, we'll take this up in the morning. First thing.
Wait, George, I'm up. What is it?
Okay, in the period of 1978 to 1982, there are only 5 recorded cases of a black child being adopted by an older white couple, and I have accounted for all 5 of them. 3 of them are currently enrolled in East Coast colleges. One of them is playing baseball in Japan, and one of them is a record producer.
So basically, you woke me up at 3:30 to tell me nothing.
Well, it's not nothing. Yeah, I guess that's what I am doing.
George, are you all right?
Yes, I think I just get so caught up in this I've lost track of the time. I'm sorry.
George.
Okay. I need to get some sleep. Good night.
Yeah.
Back again. I was hoping this time you were gone for good.
Is he in the bathroom? I don't know. I can't see. I'm not gonna drop this thing till I know he's in the bathroom. Get closer. Polly! Polly! Oh my gosh, Polly! 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 Oh my gosh, Polly!
Polly, what happened?
He pushed him down!
You son of a bitch!
Alan!
I want you gone. You pack up your stuff and get out. You better get him to the hospital.
I'm going with you, Dad.
It's okay. It'll be okay.
Bailey, we assumed the killer was white, and then we discovered that he was black. What if he's both?
One parent black, the other white.
It happens. He could be light-skinned. He's rejected by both sides because he's not enough of either.
The abuse came from the white grandparents. He's been killing surrogates for them.
He doesn't feel connected to either side, so he drifts. Riding the rails is a part of that. They're all drifters. Rejecting society or rejected by it.
What are you doing?
I'm leaving. He told me to...
You don't have to leave, Andrew. I took care of that. God, you make it so hard on yourself, Andrew.
I didn't push him.
I know you didn't.
Then why didn't you say anything?
You just have to do a better job of staying out of Alan's way. It's only when he... We didn't get off to a very good start. But I want you to stay.
Why should I stay?
Because I'm your mother. Because I wouldn't give you up when you were a baby. And I won't give you up now.
In a family of racial intolerance, it doesn't matter whether the mother is white or black. If the mother has a child of mixed race, the family would most likely reject both mother and child.
Why didn't she just end the pregnancy?
She may have been afraid to say anything until it was too late.
If the father had any say in it, I can tell you from personal experience, black families are reluctant to have abortions.
And a mixed marriage was definitely out of the question.
Well, if she had a child out of wedlock, that would exacerbate the problem, but the rejection would already exist. The child would be a living reminder.
State police in Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah have reported in. We're receiving photos and files of 3 light-skinned African-American males with arrests and/or incidents of vagrancy within a couple of miles of the BNSF line.
Adam Anderson and Thomas Gilhooly. Both are in lockup on petty stuff. That clears them.
What about this guy?
Theodore Barlow, armed robbery, assault, whereabouts, unknown.
Let's get his photo out to every agency in the Four Corners region.
Armed robbery, drug trafficking. His violence is a means to an end. He's a career criminal, drug dealer. Violence is part of their business.
So am I still sending it out?
Send it. He's wanted for questioning.
The mother was a rebellious teenager. Most likely she would have committed other acts of defiance. She might even have a criminal past.
The burn markings, that might suggest an arson.
Arson or some other form of destruction of property, but specifically aimed at him, her own father.
You want to narrow down the time frame?
We're putting the killer in his early 20s, born to a mother in the middle teens. Focus between the years 1973 and 78.
Didn't start in Arizona. With the acceleration of kills, the last 2 occurring in Ames, suggests he might have grown up in the area.
They're here! Grandma!
Boys.
What'd you bring us? Can I open them now?
Sure, go ahead.
Hi.
Hi. Honey.
Mom.
Honey.
Something for the boys again? I wish you wouldn't do that.
Grandparents are supposed to spoil their grandchildren.
Something smells great. Need help in the kitchen?
Thanks.
Victimization most likely came from the grandfather, since he's burning the males but not the females.
But he's still killing them.
Maybe because the grandmother did nothing to stop the abuse.
Killing surrogates give method to his anger, marking each one of them as he gets more and more used to the idea.
But the markings aren't a brand of ownership. They're the mark of rejection. Banishment from his own family.
But you... Oh! You're gonna ease up on me, David? I'm not as young as I used to be, you know?
Poor Grandpa. All right, go get your brother and wash up for supper. Come on. Okay.
He's a great kid. Oh, what, now I can't wrestle with my grandson? Huh? I got time for a smoke? Hey, what is it with you?
I don't like you spoiling the boys.
No, this isn't about the boys. It's about him. He was a mistake.
He's my son.
He was a mistake we've paid for.
You don't have to rub it in his face, Dad. Haven't you done enough?
Enough?
Look, we've had this argument 1,000 times.
We're gonna go on having it as long as I live. We took that boy in, raised him while you went off to college.
Well, you sent me away.
You never would have met Alan if it wasn't for our sacrifice. You disgraced your mother and me, bringing him into the family. He's lucky he had a home at all. You want to give him a roof? That's your business. Just don't blow a good thing.
Teenage girls, which means there was plenty of rebellion to go around. George dug up 8 grand theft autos, stole their father's car, 4 who falsely accused their fathers of sexual abuse, and 3 who committed armed robbery using their father's gun.
Those are all for material or vindictive purposes. It would be something that was rejection of the father without actually hurting him physically.
Here's one. An Arizona girl poisoned over 50 head of cattle from her father's herd.
Lynn Nelson dumped 15 pounds of pesticide into their feed. Story made the papers. Authorities thought a viral strain had hit the area. She was 13.
Juvenile records are sealed.
That's why we've got George.
And her father's a rancher. That's her way of rejecting who he is.
The story disappeared after the charges were dropped.
This girl who killed her dad's cattle is gonna love this. She gave birth in 1979 to an African-American male, Andrew Nelson.
So her dad filed charges to show her who's boss, and she spites him by having a child.
Social Security now has her under the name Lynn Chandler of Ames, Arizona. She's married. Significant upgrade in her economic status according to their last tax return.
How many dependents did they claim?
2 boys, David and Paul, 9 and 6 years old.
And no mention of Andrew.
I don't know how much more convincing you need. He almost killed Polly.
He just got the wind knocked out of him.
This time.
He said it was an accident.
Well, I'm tired of his accidents. And I'm tired of being reminded how I got sandbagged. Or did you just forget you had a child when we got married?
I do my best to keep him out of your way.
That's not the point, Lynn. Look, we have a good life here. For you and me and our children. Don't you see he's destroying it?
And what do you want me to do?
I want you to think about what's best for us. For us.
Well, I can't just write him off.
You can't. Or you won't. How do you think those boys are going to feel when they learn that that freak is their half-brother?
Lynn Chandler,
Yes.
you have a son, Andrew Nelson.
Where is he?
Your son could be in trouble, Mrs. Chandler.
He lives in the trailer out back.
No one's home!
You have any idea where Andrew might have gone?
Well, he sort of comes and goes. I don't really know where.
Mrs. Chandler, your son may be involved in a series of murders. He may be targeting people that remind him of your mother and your father.
Well, they were just here.
Your parents?
They wanted to take the kids out for ice cream before they went back home. They should have been back by now.
You think it was easy for us, huh? Having you in the house, always reminding us of what your mother did, how she shamed us. Didn't matter what you looked like, I knew what you are.
You hurt me.
It was for your own good. Tried to raise you decent.
Fred.
Accepted your mother's responsibility and tried to do the best we could for you.
Stop it!
God's sake, isn't it time to admit the truth? You hated him because our daughter bore him. You tortured him. And I just stood by and let it happen. Oh, Andrew, I'm guiltier than he is. And if it would make any difference to say, I'm sorry.
Yeah, make sure there's nothing wrong.
All clear here. Got something.
He's dead! She's still breathing!
Get an ambulance up here now. Bailey!
Step away from the car and throw me your keys. Do it now!
He's heading for the yard where the roundhouse is. Head him off over there.
Don't move!
Get your hands up! Put him up!
Give yourself up, Andrew.
We'll get our final report in about a month.
Anxious to read it.
Hey, look. If we get out this way again...
Goodbye, Sheriff.
Jerry.
Jerry.